morning, everybody. I'm Susan Kennedy, and welcome to Councilmember Sidney Katz's second Senior Forum. This is the second in a series of senior forums that the council member will be bringing to you over the next several months. And today our topic is aging in place here in Montgomery County, a very important topic to discuss. As we know, so many of our seniors are wanting to stay in their homes, and we know that the senior population here in Montgomery County is growing by leaps and bounds every day. So we need to make sure that our folks can stay here and live comfortably and happily for the rest of their lives. So before we meet our guests for today, who have some important information to share with you, I'm going to turn it over to Councilmember Katz for some opening remarks. Mr. Katz.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Susan, and good morning to everyone. I'm delighted that so many are joining us today for this forum on aging in place. As the over 55 population grows in our county, and for those of you who might want to be guessing, I am over 55, the needs of seniors desiring to remain independent as long as possible also increases. Today, we're very pleased to have Marcia Prusen here, Pazik, Aviv, and Fran Randolph with us to talk about age-friendly Montgomery, as well as the village concept. Age-friendly Montgomery County is an initiative to enhance the county as a wonderfully diverse community for a lifetime, a place where all residents can age and thrive to their full potential. Villages are created by residents of the community, people who have a vision for an improved quality of life for all, which fits right in with the focus on aging in place. We plan for future forums to focus on other aspects necessary for successful aging in place. I'm proud of the many resources Montgomery County provides to support aging in, and hope you find this session thought-provoking and beneficial. As we begin, I want to publicly thank the staff from my office, especially Betty Ring, who's a senior fellow in the office, for all their hard work to coordinate all that is happening today. You know, all of these types of things look easy. They are not, to coordinate something like this. And I also want to turn back to our terrific moderator, Susan Kennedy, who is going to be, I believe this will be her last with us, because she is changing. She is retiring from the county and going to another position. So Susan, you have always done a wonderful job. We sincerely appreciate everything you've done, and I will turn it back to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I've enjoyed working with you. These are very informative forums and really beneficial to the residents. Before we start, I just want to lay out a few ground rules. At the end of each presentation from our guests, we will have time for question and answers. So if you do have a question for our presenter, please send it to me through the chat, and we will read your question aloud for you. Also, we will be fully taping this program, and it will be made available to you after it is over, along with the links to the resources that will be shared in today's program. So just don't forget, you will, if you miss something, we'll get it to you. So don't worry about it. So first today we have Marcia Prusen, who is a senior fellow with Aging in Place. And I want to welcome Marcia, and she has a little presentation on what do Montgomery County seniors look like. Welcome, Marcia.
Hello, and thank you for inviting me. I'm going to try to share my screen now. I have a few slides for you. Well, that's not it. I had my slides. Can you see them yet?
No.
Not yet.
Okay.
If you select on them, you should be able to share them with us.
Okay, I hit the share screen, right?
Mm-hmm. And then I think you have to hit the screen that you make sure you're sharing the correct screen. There you go.
Okay, great.
There you go.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I want to thank you and Betty, and of course, Councilmember Katz, for inviting Pezit and me here today. I'm really thrilled to talk to you about age-friendly Montgomery. It's a subject near and dear to my heart, and I'm guessing that there are people on this call who maybe don't know anything about it. So it's a wonderful opportunity. So what is the age-friendly program? It is a global initiative of the World Health Organization, and in this country, it's guided by AARP. Its goal is to help localities all over the world and in this country and certainly in Montgomery County prepare for the rapid aging of the population. In this country, there are nearly 600 different localities, just in the United States, that have enrolled in this program. And there are 6 states, and we're hoping that Maryland will soon become the 7th state. So Councilmember Katz just read you this vision statement that we are a wonderfully diverse community for a lifetime, meaning that throughout your life, this should be a comfortable, wonderful, welcoming place to live for everyone. And that residents can remain and thrive here throughout their life and be a powerful resource in making the county a better, stronger, and more inclusive community for everyone. With the help of the commission, we have a very, very engaged county commission on aging, and with their study and suggestions, and the support of the county council and the county executive, we enrolled in this program in 2015. We developed a very detailed action plan and twice since then, and we were recertified in 2020 as an official age-friendly community. Why did we do this? We did it because we already had a long record, decades of supporting our older residents. And we know, we all believe, everybody on this call, I'm sure, believes that this is a really good place to live. And we know from numerous surveys that older adults want to age in place in their homes and in their own communities. And finally, we believe that whatever we do to enhance the lives and support the lives of our older residents benefits residents of every age. So as Councilmember Katz just told you, this is a rapidly growing older population that we have here, and it is becoming increasingly diverse. I'm going to read through some of these statistics with you because you may be unfamiliar with them, or you may have heard that this is happening, I don't know. But in 2019, residents who were 60 and older already made up 22% of the county's population. 34% of those 60 and older report speaking another language. And by 2030, just not that many years from now, minority residents will make up more than 50% of the population. By 2040, 1 in 5 will be 65 or older, and 1 in 3 will be 55 or older. And we already have a situation today where there are communities in our county where older residents outnumber children. So you can see that the population is shifting. So we joined Age Friendly Montgomery and are structured with 2 co-chairs, the director of the Department of Health and Human Services, the director of the Recreation Department. We have a very strong advisory committee. We work very, very closely with our Commission on Aging and a number of community partners. I will show you just a quick list of the types of partners we have in a minute. And we work in 10 areas of focus, strong focus. And so each of these areas is focused on what they're doing, but they're also looking for opportunities to work across these areas of focus with one another. And they are chaired by a county government staff person and a partner. And the Commission on Aging, again, participates in these groups frequently. So these are the kinds of partners that we have from all over the county. We've even had the federal government, participate, other local governments participate with us on occasion. And you can see it's a wide range of all areas of our life. Again, I'm going to quickly read this list, but you will see again, this is the list of the 10 age-friendly Montgomery County areas of focus, which we call domains in Age Friendly. Civic and social involvement, which includes volunteerism and diversity, encouraging diverse groups to participate, and also a lot of focus on technology and on our villages, which you're going to hear a lot about in a few minutes. Communication and outreach, nothing more important than people know what we're doing and what's there for them to participate in. Elder abuse prevention, employment for those over 50, health and wellness activities and programs, home and community-based services, housing, planning open spaces and parks that should be inviting and accessible to all ages, senior public safety, and transportation. So you may be wondering, how does this affect me and my family? And the answer is, it does in a variety of ways. Here are just some of the different activities that are going on in the age-friendly program. We are working to make pedestrian-friendly streets and sidewalks so that they're safer to walk and to cross streets. As I just said, we want accessible, available, open public spaces and parks. We have a number of opportunities for free and low-cost transportation for people age 65 and older and those with disabilities. We have a strong focus on preserving housing and expanding affordable housing, focus on affordable housing with a strong effort to preserve it and expand it. Never has the structure of age-friendly been more important than it has over this last year and a half, as we've all been meeting the challenges of COVID. We have more than 40 partner organizations working with us. And during COVID, we saw a true expansion of collaborative activities. One thing I should have mentioned is that the partners and the advisors and the staff people working on age-friendly all gather many times a year, and they talk to each other about what they're doing. They look for areas of cross collaboration. They look for attempts to join in each other's programs and services. And they have in fact told us that this structure is very inviting for them to do this, whereas before they kind of were always focused sort of on their specific area of work. Now they have a much more opportunity to learn across the county what county government and our partners are doing and places where they can fit in. So during COVID, we had a magnificent collaborative partnership that sprung up very rapidly, as you can imagine, to ensure delivery of essential services across the region. And these services included making sure that those in need had access to food, medical services, transportation to get tested or to get vaccine, tech support, both in terms of helping older people who were isolated at home use the technology they have, train them in how to use it, getting devices out to people who needed it. Transportation, I just mentioned, there are a number of different transportation activities going on in the county that help people get where they want to go when they want to get there. This was so important has been during COVID. Engage at Home is a new program that was set up for caregivers who are family members who are caring for someone at home. And again, during periods of isolation, this became a really important program to help them stay engaged with the community and with each other. We had numerous call checks to center members, senior center members, who were isolated at home, to be sure they were okay, to be sure that they weren't in need of any county services that we didn't know about. So where are we now? We are looking for continued support and collaboration with our Commission on Aging, for sure, with our different departments and across our community partnerships. We expect that to continue. We have a strong network and it works beautifully now. We're looking for growth of our community partnerships, especially in areas like business. We have some businesses, but we'd like to see more, a number of different ways we might expand that partnership to engage even more community organizations and businesses. We are working constantly with other states and with other Maryland counties and localities that wish to become age-friendly. Because we've been at it for a while now and have a track record, they often consult us about how to get their programs started and different programs that we run. And we support age-friendly Maryland. So we hope that more localities in Maryland will become age-friendly and that they will enroll, and we will do all we can to help them. We work with AARP on this and often go out and speak for AARP at different localities to talk about age-friendly. So I've covered a lot in a very few minutes. If you want more information, there are a number of ways you can reach us that are on this slide. We have our number, our telephone number, which is 240-777-3000. We have an Age Friendly Montgomery webpage, and there's a long address here, but honestly, when I want to go to it, I just Google Age Friendly Montgomery and it pops right up. We have a senior website that is extremely full and informative, and you can always contact me. So thank you very much for letting me give you a bird's eye view about age-friendly Montgomery County. I hope you've learned something new, and if there are any questions, I'd be happy to try to take them now.
Thank you, Marcia. That is amazing. What a great program this is. I have a question right away. If I'm a senior and I want to get involved with Age Friendly Montgomery, do you guys have volunteers, or how does that work if I wanted to become involved with the work that you're doing in the community?
I think there are a couple of ways. Anybody who volunteers in the county is a real asset to the county and is in fact supporting Age Friendly. So the best way you could find a way to volunteer would be to go to our 50+ volunteer center, which is on our website, because it gives you a whole range of ways you could volunteer. Our meetings are open. You're welcome to come to any of our meetings and see if there's something going on there that interests you as well. We'll try to put a schedule on the website. I don't think there is one now, but I'm trying to get one put on there. So, and people can contact me directly if they wish to, or call the 3000 number as well. So there are a number of ways.
Terrific. I have a question from Caroline Lewis. She's asking, does Age Friendly Montgomery have a home safety program?
Yes, we have a public safety group, and it's made of people who are working about fire safety, police safety, avoiding scams, emergency planning, and some of those do home call checks. I'd have to get you more specific information. If that person wants to leave you their name, I'll get back to them with more specific information. But they do a lot of home call checks. Of course, during COVID, a lot of this has had to be curtailed, but they, talk to people over the phone or do Zoom outreach programs and things like that. A lot of that is going on during COVID. They're not going into the houses so much with the pandemic.
Maybe it would be good for her to email you then, or you could,
sure,
she could reach you by email.
Yes, or the 3000 number, any of those. Okay. Yes.
Okay, wonderful. She said she will email you.
Okay, wonderful.
Barbara Gerard asks, has anyone given thought to helping seniors who have no family to help them navigate old age?
I think there are a lot of different ways the county can help them. And I think the best way to find those resources, I'm going to say two things. One is to call the 3000 number, because they can fill you in on the range of, look at the website, the senior website, call the 3000 number. And also we have a very strong villages movement. If your loved one happens to be lucky enough to be in one, Pazit is going to tell you all about that. And I think you'll find them a very exciting other way that people can be helped at home.
Terrific. Okay, well, we are going to move on to an online poll, and we can ask you to stop sharing your screen, and we can put that poll up for the viewers. The poll will be, what interests you most about aging in place? So we will have that.
And Susan, excuse me, if I can jump in,
sure.
Any of the chat questions that we don't get to, we will send an answer, or if you'll give us enough information that we can contact you after today.
Right.
But I did see the one in the chat from Arlene Frazier, who's a friend. I haven't seen she or her husband Alan for a while, about the elderly real property tax credit. I believe it is still continuing. We will double check that, Arlene, and we will get back with you. But and I've been a champion of that from the very beginning, and I think it's certainly something that needs to continue. And I apologize, Susan, for interrupting you. Thanks.
Oh, not a problem at all. We had a late question pop in from Sylvia Saunders, who's wondering about free transportation that you mentioned. What types or kind of free transportation are you referring to, and where can it be found?
Well, Again, the 3,000 number, and there is a transportation site on the senior site. And I know that there are a number of like free bus rides for older adults and reduced fares on other kinds of mechanisms for older adults. And there's Connect a Ride, where it's a free service you can call where they can help people 50 and older and people with disabilities to arrange transportation that they may need. And there are a number of other ways too. So I think the best thing would be to either call the 3,000 number and check the transportation site on the senior site, the county's web senior page.
Yeah. So Dale Brunetto mentions that the ride-on buses are free for seniors in Montgomery County. So
Well, they're free for everyone right now.
well, that's true. That's
Right,
right.
yeah,
During COVID, it's still
Right.
free through January, correct? We're
Right,
making
yeah, that's
it free
correct.
Okay, that's great. And then Suzanne T. Fullingstad asked what kind of medical support is available, including for those with dementia or immobile. Marcia, is that in your area as well?
Well, again, I have to say, I don't have the specific information. I know that the county's been very involved in getting people vaccinated and getting people transportation to needed vaccination sites and testing sites. I don't know, Pazit may have more information on that, but again, the 3,000 number has it all. So.
Okay, perfect. Okay, we are going to move on to Pazit. We do have other questions coming in, but we're going to move on, but we will try to get to all the questions that are coming in. And Pazit Aviv is here. She is the coordinator of aging and disability, and she is going to talk about what is aging in place and why is it so important. And in the meantime, we are going to leave that poll up for a little while longer. So if you haven't answered, go right ahead and send us your answer on that. So welcome, Pazit.
Thank you, Susan. Hi, everybody. I am the village coordinator. I don't coordinate all aging and disability services. That job is left to my wonderful supervisor, Odile Brunetto, who is in the audience. And hi, Odile. I'm going to take just a minute to respond to some of the questions. I think that the questions you are raising are fundamental and important. And I know Betty's plan is to create additional forums because every single question you've asked require us to spend at least 45 minutes in going over the kind of resources and services the county has to offer. So the fact that we are not giving you the answer right now, I have added a couple of links in the chat. So please follow that to see what's written on the website about the questions you've asked. But I know that Betty is already planning some really fantastic forums to address these specific questions. And I think I want to appreciate the fact that you're asking these questions so that it would guide us as we plan further info sessions for you and elevate some of the concerns you have. So I'm going to take another kind of bird's eye view with you and ask the big question before we plunge into villages, because before you ask what is a village, you need to ask why. And so now we're going to understand what is it we're talking about in the context of our communities. I'm going to share my screen and walk you through some of the things that have been guiding people who are leading the village movement. So before we start, I think one of the first and more important premises we need to lay the foundation for our discussion is what's aging. And too frequently, far too often, people talk about aging as a problem that needs to be solved. All those old people that are cramming our nursing homes and our hospitals and are costing us $1.5 million. And woe is me, the silver tsunami, and the rest. But the fact of the matter is that most people who are over the age of 55, 65, however you want to call it, really are, I would say, the backbone of our societies, and has been since they were a younger generation of boomers and the greatest generation. And what we're looking at is a population of people who are really our opportunity and not our crisis. Aging is a solution rather than a problem to be solved. The aging population in this county is our greatest assets and not our biggest burden. It's a resource rather than a drain on our resources. And the aging individuals are a group that can make social, economic, cultural, and spiritual contributions rather than simply being an expansion of our population. So when you view aging in that prism, much of what you will hear about the villages will become clearer, because it's not about a deficit mindset. It's about a strengths mindset. So the key word of this discussion is aging in place, and this is one of my favorite slides. And so these two men are talking on the bench, and the one says, they sat me down and said, Pops, we need to talk about aging in place. And then he continues to say, and I said, aging in place of what? And indeed, in place of what? That's the biggest question, because according to the recent statistics I had gleaned from the web, 93% of the older adults live in their own homes in the community. And so I don't know that people are considering other options. But instead of saying, okay, I've lived here for 30, 40, 50 years, I'm just going to keep on keeping on, status quo as it is, it should be actually be perceived as a call to action. Because the next question everybody needs to ask themselves, whether they're 40, 50, 60, and 20 as well, is what would it take? What would it take for us to accomplish this aging in place goal we have as individuals, as neighborhoods, as a county, and as a country? Because once you ask that question, you then dive into the various multifaceted approaches that you can take to help everybody, both personally and a community, accomplish the goal of aging in place. And the first one is the natural question, do we have the right built environment to support aging in place? Consider your own homes. Count how many steps you have to enter your home, how many steps you have to the nearest bedroom, bathroom, how wide are your doorways? Do you have any other features that would help you age at home if you have some decreased mobility? But then you can reach out and look into your neighborhood. Do you have sidewalks? Do you have benches? Does the bus stop have a nice little cover with a place to sit at? Does all your buildings that you need to access have ways of accommodating your aging needs? So you see there's a private approach to this built environment, but also a wider community-wide approach. Health. Have you made good lifestyle choices to help you age with good health? Do you have good physicians? You know that there's a shortage of geriatricians in this county, and so it's really difficult to find good care. What about home care staffing shortages we're all dealing with? Mobility, and there was a question about free transportation. Mobility is a question of both personal mobility as well as just getting around the county. What about our transportation resources? Are they enough? Are they sufficient? Are they available, accessible, and affordable, as my dear colleague Sean says? Financial, and that's a biggie because statistics, the data out there shows that vast majority of older adults do not have sufficient funds to retire with the same level of quality of life they've been accustomed to. So what are we doing about that? This is a really huge question. And then last, but definitely not least, is the social. Because increasingly we are aware of the importance of social networks in our lives. This has been something that had not received the attention it deserves, but we are social animals, and without the social connections in our lives, we are not doing as well. And so all these are questions that you can both ask yourself as a person in your own home, in your neighborhood, and in your county. So let's talk about social infrastructure, because that's where things get really interesting. And this is a little kind of a analysis based on many conversations I've had with lots of people in this very county, and people remembering how things used to be and compare them with the way they are right now. So when we built our suburban communities, most of them, I'm not saying all of them, really were not built with community in mind. Think about your typical neighborhood with large lots, and the homes are in the back of the lot. There's very few sidewalks. People entertain in the back, in the deck. You don't have those like classic front porches with the wheelchair and the small, place near the road that you can have these constant engagement with people. So even our very built environment were created in a way that prohibited from these informal chance encounters with neighbors, as well as the fact that we don't have places to convene as much. Everything is super structured and formal. We have to go to a restaurant to meet with people, and the community centers are mostly focused on classes, and they're slowly, I think, fantastically so, thinking about themselves more and more as a community hub rather than just a place to offer recreation and therapeutic services. So I think that's fantastic. But people, many neighborhood I talk to, they want to get together and they don't have a place locally to get together. They need to meet in someone's home or a basement of a church. So physical space didn't create community mindset, but we also had a transition from a one family, one income household to two income households. So the people that were back at the communities, weaving those connections, seeing one another, taking care of one another, were no longer there. They're at the workforce. And I'm not saying we need to change that because, hey, I like it the way it is, but we need to recognize the gap that was created in our communities. That right now, when you drive around, well, not COVID has changed a lot, but when you drive around, most people are working. They're not really busy building relationship in communities. And another element to this modern community life is that we have two main hubs right now. We either work and work and work, or we go home and we spend time with a very small nucleus family in our house. And so when you retire and when the kids move out of the house, you're left with this vacuum that all the more really significant relationship and infrastructure you've created are just not there. And so when people retire, especially, when they see that sort of movement around them, around the villages, they say, I am coming out of work life and my kids are not here. And I just want to make these connections. I want to rebuild my infrastructure, my social connection network. And so they intentionally begin to form these informal groups in their community. Another element that I also want to recognize is that we, as a community, as a country, tend to monetize services and resources. Everything is in the terms of this exchange. I pay for services, I get services. This is how much money services cost. But community is not something you buy. What's the value of community? How much do you pay for that? And so I think we have, as a country, let that concept of community slide because it wasn't a part of our vocabulary. And I think that's a huge loss to us. So here comes the village movement, because when people wake up and they see all that gap created in their neighborhoods and communities, they decide to do something about that. And they organize and they form these grassroots volunteer-led organizations in their neighborhoods, in their cities, in their counties, to form this, to what I call the reweaving of the social fabric of our communities. And they just get together and they form these Neighbors Helping Neighbors organization. And each community that takes on this vision of creating a stronger community for itself does its own way, its own model. They base their decisions on how they're going to organize, on their needs, on their assets, on what is existing in their communities. And that's why every village is going to be different. Some of them focus on older adults, others want to be intergenerational. Some choose to be very professionalized and they charge fees and they have staff and they let a 1 or 2 staff member run the operations. But at the heart of it, they all share the same vision, creating strong communities that help people age at home. So what do? Once they organize, they focus on social activities. They get together. By the way, the photos you see are all from different villages across the county. They get together and they have all kinds of activities, a cafe, they have speakers group, walking group, chess clubs, mahjong, men's group, everything happens in different ways. But now, because of COVID, much of it is happening online. The number one request for services is transportation. And Sylvia has asked, what about free transportation? Well, villages offer free transportation to their members. And they do a whole lot of many other different activities, but because of time constraints, I cannot even list all of them. They're here on the slide and we can get into it if somebody has specific questions. What they will not do, and that's really important to note, is that they're not going to be your in-home 24/7 care. They're your neighbor helping neighbor approach. So it's important to keep that in mind when you think about how a village can benefit individuals or yourself. Now, I really want to emphasize the villages are beyond the nuts and bolts of what they do. I see villages as a key way for us to heal our communities, to reweave our social infrastructure, to address social isolation, and respecting people's self-determination. I think everybody wants to live their lives the way they want to. So allowing a person to stay at home the way they would like to, while remaining connected to the community, I think is a fantastic way to help people age in place. And villages have locally become a vehicle for change. They band together, they write letters, they make decisions and recommendations. They can be a voice for the older adults in their community. Not to mention the fact that many of them have become very creative and flexible, responsive to the changing conditions of the community. So they're small and they're volunteer led, and so they can take on challenges as they see fit. And so there's a lot of things that villages are doing and have been doing. One such example is a vaccination clinic, for example. So when the whole vaccine project was underway, villages took a lead and were able to help their members connect with vaccination in many different ways. So I want to, in respect of time, I'm going to stop here. I have a couple more things, but maybe we can get into that later on. So I'm going to stop sharing.
Thank you very much.
Pass it on to Fran.
Yes, we have Fran next, and Fran Randolph is the founder and chair steering committee for the village at Kentlands. Welcome, Fran. Tell us about your village. Sounds very interesting.
I would be happy to do so. And just to say, I really appreciate this attention that Montgomery County and Councilmember Katz is placing on villages and aging in place. Everything that Pazit mentioned is so critically important. And as we get older and older, we're going to need more and more supports, and villages are the chief way to make that happen. So let me just go to my second slide. I'm going to do slide 2, Betty. So while she's getting
that, quick question, Fran, how long has the village at Kentlands and Lakelands been in place?
Well, we first started working on building the concept of the village in 2014.
Okay.
I was the one that took the lead in doing so, and I started by finding residents who I knew, no, that's not it. No, that's nope, that's not it either. Betty, this is somebody else's, not mine. If you want it, I can do my own.
That might be best.
I'm happy to do my own. If
Do you have the slides there, Fran?
I do.
I think everybody's been given the permission to share their slides. So
Thank you, Fran.
okay.
Yeah, for some reason it's not coming up correctly.
Okay, let me just go into shared screen and pull up my slides. Okay, can everybody see this?
Yes, we sure
Okay.
can. Terrific.
So I thought I'd give you a little background information, first of all, about where we are. So Kentlands and Lakelands are neighborhoods in Gaithersburg. We're actually located west of 270. These communities were started first in the late 1980s, and they were developed using a very traditional design called new urbanism. What this means is that we are walkable communities. Lots of pathways. We have several lakes. We have schools. We have a church. We have small specialty stores and grocery stores and restaurants, clubhouses, and an art center. So we're a really lovely self-contained area. To some degree, we even have a gas station. I don't have to leave the Kentlands or Lakelands because everything I need is pretty much here, except for hospitals, which are not too far away. We're still small. Our population is about 8,000, but a quarter of our population is 60 years of age and older. So these are the people who moved into Kentlands and Lakelands early on, and they're still there. And we're beginning to see people thinking about moving into other kinds of housing situations, which is why when we started the village in 2014, it was really meeting a very, very important need. We do actually have another resource, which is the Kentlands Manor, that actually was developed specifically for people who are 62 and over, and they are independent apartments. So the village was first conceived by us in 2014 by a bunch of volunteer residents. We did a survey, and in 2016, we started providing services. We are different from other villages in that we actually operate under the Kentlands Community Foundation. Why? Because we actually get some benefits like liability insurance. But the other neat thing is that our two homeowners associations love the village, and they give us access to the clubhouses for meeting space and so on. So we don't have to struggle the way a number of villages do in even trying to find meeting places. Similar to what Pazit said about vision and mission, these are the statements that guided our development. We believe that Kentlands and Lakelands are great places to thrive. And our purpose is to create a community where neighbors help neighbors 55 and over with purpose through social connectedness, cultural enrichment, and support in daily living. So all three of these things are really important as we get older. What are the services that we provide? Well, again, similar to what Pazit described, we do social calls and social visits, particularly because many people now are widowed or single and are not necessarily connected well with other people. We offer to do short walks for people to take advantage of our many pathways. Transportation is our biggest demand, our biggest need. People give, that's the one thing people give up first, is their driving the cars. So we have more demands for helping people get to appointments and grocery stores and so on. We help with errands, we do light indoor chores, light outdoor chores, and provide technology support with people who need access to their laptops, their iPads, their telephones, and their TVs. We soon, after probably around 2018, we began to realize that social isolation was becoming a real issue. A lot of the data we looked at nationally reminded us how important it was to connect people. And as we have an aging population, we have a retired population. And when you retire, you lose the community of people you worked with, and you start living in a community where you haven't actually developed those relationships. So we realized it was important that we needed to create social events. So this is an example of the kind of things that we're doing. And we started just before the pandemic. We started organizing small groups like bridge groups and things of that sort. And of course, with the pandemic, we had to stop all of that. But our plan is to start looking at that again, because the small groups are where people connect, where people develop their relationships. Just to give you a few numbers, over the last 12 months, we had a slight decline on our number of members. We have 51 members right now, and we have a campaign right now to increase that membership. What we saw was a number of family members started coming in and just sort of taking care of their family members, and there was less of a demand for us sometimes. We have, however, a robust number of volunteers. We stayed very active in providing virtual events and activities. We held over 43 events. We provided a lot of rides for people, over 238 rides. And in terms of other services, we provided 251 other kinds of services outside of transportation. So you can see, even though the pandemic has had an impact, we still have worked very, very hard to stay connected. And how did we do that? we take very seriously communication. A lot of people think a village is a facility for frail and elderly people. And we say, no, 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 no. We're a membership organization. You don't sign up because you're going to get services. You sign up because you believe that in the village, and we are the village. So we do a lot of things to keep connected with people and to sell ourselves to the community. We have a website, we have a newsletter, we do Facebook, and we have 2 local newspapers. And each month we do special articles on different themes. So for instance, our last article was on being mentally fit. We talk about being physically fit. Well, guess what? Being mentally fit is just as important, if not even more important. So briefly, why do people join the village? Again, Pazik identified many of the reasons. In fact, there are many, many, many reasons why people join. Sometimes they get lonely and they're looking for social connections. Sometimes they want to just be giving back to the community, so they want to volunteer. There's so many different reasons. I have 3 really brief stories that I'll show you, and these are real stories. Judy G has been very, very active in our homeowners association. She was on the board, and very recently she was driving in New Jersey and she was in a car accident. Oh my gosh. After rehab of a couple of months, I ran into her out in the front of the building. And I said, Judy, how are you doing? She says, well, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out, do I get a new car or do I do something else, like sign up for Uber? And I said, well, what about the village? We have neighbors who are going to help you get to places. That's all she needed. She needed just transportation. So she, within a day or 2, she was signed up for the village. Then there's Graham. Well, Graham is a very interesting person. He has since passed. He was a very, very interesting political background and had done a lot of advising of presidents over his career. And as he aged, he started developing some dementia. But one of the things that Graham loved to do was walk. And his wife felt the need to go on those walks with him. But she was also getting, she was just diagnosed with cancer, breast cancer. And so she called the village and we said, we would love to take Graham on walks. So we had volunteers walking with Graham 7 days a week. And this gave his wife some respite. So that was her need. And his need was just having somebody take walks with him. And finally, the story of Linda. Linda is a retired CPA. And she, when she retired, she had this strong desire to give back to our community. She also realized that she worked so hard that she hadn't developed a lot of friends in her community. And so she found the village as a way to develop social connections. She's now on our steering committee. And she's also been using our village services because she's had some health issues and has needed transportation. So these are just 3 examples. And let me just tell you, there's so many different reasons, so many different stories out there. Villages are there to connect people to resources, to connect people with others, and to help people age as long as possible in their homes before we have to move. I'm mindful of the fact that I don't want to consume too much more time. There may be some questions. Here's my contact information, which will be made available, and I'd be happy to answer more questions.
Fran, this was an absolutely fantastic presentation, and you're getting all kinds of praise in the chat, including from our own Raymond Crowell, who is the director of our Health and Human Services Committee, who is cheering on all the villages here in Montgomery County for their work to keep our seniors connected and getting the services they need during this pandemic. It's so very important. We do have a few questions that have come come through here and let me get to the first. Okay, well, Jean Sperling is asking, what does it cost to join this village?
It varies depending upon whether you're signing up for services or signing up for just social events. It also varies depending upon whether it's just for yourself or whether it's for your entire household. You can go to our website to get the details on it. I will just tell you that even though we're a fairly wealthy community, our rates are incredibly low compared to most villages that usually ask for like $700, $800. Ours are more like between $100 and $200 for the entire year. Yes, see.
So the issue of cost, I want to take that head on and respond to that in a bigger sort of a question. So some of the questions people ask is, why do they charge money? Because if you are an all volunteer organization doing good in your neighborhood, why can't I just rely on that on an organic fashion? And the response is that it takes a lot of effort to establish the infrastructure. Somebody needs to have a phone line to call. You need to create a website that people will know how to find information about activities and events. If volunteers are doing work, they need to be insured. So liability insurance is a big component of the budget. Some of them really wanna expand what they offer to their members. And so they have staff to run a lot of those activities. And so these things cost money. And county is extremely generous and supports 11 villages currently, but they really do need to rely on contribution from the community members. And in fact, the way I approach membership fee is more of a value statement, because you're making a statement saying, my community is important for me. I want this organization to be alive and well so that it will be there for me and my fellow neighbors. And so it's really important to think of it not as a consumer-based mindset where I buy village services, but it's a way of joining and making a value statement. So just saying that is really important to set the stage correctly. I will say one more thing and then I'll get you the numbers. I'm not avoiding it. The second element is a lot of villages recognize that some people really struggle financially. And the vast majority of villages, if you tell them, see, I want to join, but I just can't afford the fees, people will work with you. It's not about getting your money. It's about making the light, paying the bills when the light bill comes. So having said all that, I will say that some villages do not charge any money at all. These tend to be much smaller, very organic, low-key villages. And there are villages that are more robust. And in the county specifically, the average is about $200-300 a year. Some charge $350, some charge $500 a person. The DC villages tend to charge more. Montgomery County villages are a little on the lower end. And so you need to call the specific village to get a sense of that, and call me if you have any questions.
Perfect. Thank you, Bazit. We only have a few minutes left. I just want to assure folks who have sent questions in who haven't, if we don't get to your question, we will answer it personally. So we are gathering all the data and we will be giving everybody a link to all the information that's been provided today so you can access it, as well as a link to this program if you want to watch it again, because there's been a ton of useful information here. And I'm just going to quickly share the results of our poll. What areas are most interest to you for aging in place? And we asked you to select your top 3. So I'm sharing the results. I don't know if it's coming up or not, but interestingly enough, the village concept was number 1. So that shows you that folks are very attracted to that idea, and it's something that they think could fit into their lifestyle as they grow older. Second looks to be social isolation, which we talked about, and how that's a real thing as we age. And then third, it looks like in-home assistance. So we want to thank all of you. We had 75% of you participated in that. So thank you so much for participating in that poll. And we have one last question before we wrap it up from Aileen Klein. She's wondering if the people living in Kentlands Manor are included in the village. Fran, can you answer that?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Absolutely. Everybody that lives in the Kentlands and Lakelands are eligible to participate in the village.
Wonderful. That's wonderful. Well, it's a great idea, and I think it's going to be gaining steam as we grow older here in Montgomery County and the population grows as far as senior citizens are concerned. Thank you so much for all of you for being here today, and I want to turn it back to Councilmember Katz for some closing remarks.
Well, thank you. Come on mute. Thank you very, very much, everyone, and Marcy and Pazik and Fran and Betty for doing all of this hard work so that everyone can understand how we're trying our very best to have a better life for each and every one of us. And it shows today, and it certainly continues to show throughout. I did want to mention, as of this moment, and I know I'm right because I double checked with Betty on this, but as of this moment, we have not set a date for our next senior forum, but we are going to have many more senior forums. Obviously, they're popular and people like to get this information. It'll probably be after the new year. It'll be in 2022. We'll get through the holidays and then we'll have some more. But I did want to thank very, very much once again our friend and person who we're going to miss terribly, Susan Kennedy, from doing these forums. So she's certainly welcome to come in and ask us a question or two on chat.
I may just do that. I'm very interested in everything that was shared here today. It was fantastic.
So we look forward to that. So thank you very much. And with that, Susan, I will turn it back to you. And I believe we're going to be right on time.
And isn't that amazing? Thank you again to all of our guests who were here today and provided such fantastic presentations for our audience. As I said, I don't know if everybody's seeing the chat, but there is a lot of happy folks out there who really gained a lot of important knowledge today. And that's why the council member does these forums. It really is important for all of us to stay connected with what's out here, because Montgomery County is a great place to live and we do a lot of great things for our seniors. So again, we will send you a link to all the information, a link to the program, and an answer to your question as well. So I want to thank everybody again and have a fantastic Wednesday.